everyone. Thanks for coming today. Today's session is on social media and consumer packaged goods 101. My name is Emily Page, and I'm a food scientist with Perennia Food and Agriculture. We are Nova Scotia's only development agency with a focus on agriculture and seafood. We offer services in food safety, agriculture extension, mobile wine bottling, and analytical testing of cannabis, foods, and beverages. Our innovation team works with clients on product development, process improvement, nutritional labeling, and shelf life determination. Today's guest presenter is Neil Stephen. He is the CEO of This Is Marketing, a marketing and branding agency with a focus on CPG in downtown Dartmouth. His company has grown since 2015 and now serves clients across Canada with a team of 11, focusing on brand storytelling, point of sale creative, and digital marketing to drive traffic and sales. He's a father of two, husband to one, and is excited to be here today to discuss social media with all of you. We will have time for questions at the end, so please submit them through the Q&A button and I'll moderate them for you. This session is brought to you by the support of the Food and Beverage Business Accelerator Program. We just want to send a quick thank you to our sponsors, making resources just like this one accessible to help Nova Scotia businesses grow. And with that, I will pass it on to you, Neil.
Right on. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me this morning. I'm coming to all of you from Atlin, BC, which is a beautiful community in very northern British Columbia, just on the Yukon border. I'm up here for work. We have a client here. The Taku River Tlingit First Nation is a client of our company, and we're up here doing some work on a major infrastructure project that they have on the go here. But I didn't want to miss this opportunity to chat with all of you and to share some of my perspective on social media. And I appreciate you all for taking the time and putting your company's social media future at the forefront of your day here, and sharing some time with us. So hopefully make the best use of your hour. This presentation should be about 40-45 minutes, and then we'll have time for Q&A. I've never presented in the webinar format. I actually really don't like the webinar format. I like to be able to see everyone, and I can't see you all. So the chat feature is going to be pretty key this morning, I think. So please do pop things into the chat. Before we go in here, I just want to quickly thank the sponsors that made this possible. Canadian Agricultural Partnership, Nova Scotia Government, yay, thank you Nova Scotia, Perennia, of course, and of course the Government of Canada. These are, there's a lot of money that gets put into funding for all sorts of different stuff, as we all know as business owners, and sometimes it can feel like you got to fill in 1,000 forms to get a dollar to support you and try to move your company forward. But sometimes there's money that gets put to good things. I've been watching this speaker series for a little while, and there's some really good stuff coming out of Perennia, and so I'm really happy that they've sort of taken the lead here, and I'm really happy that these sponsors have stepped up. And when I was asked to chat with you all this morning, or I guess it's this afternoon for all of you, I jumped at it because it's a really good opportunity. So thank you to the sponsors. All right. Social media and consumer packaged goods 101. I should just clarify, I've been doing social media since before social media was like a thing. Way back, I remember distinctly when Facebook came to Canada. A good friend of mine at the time, was lobbying to get it at our university. I would have been in my third year of university when Facebook came to Canada, and that was sort of the start of the social age, the digital social age. So I've been around it a long time. Now if any of you Google me, you'll find me on LinkedIn. That's the social media channel of choice that I use. Our business, my own company, we're not the best on social media for some reasons that I'll get into a little later. But if anyone's on this call and you feel like, I'm not really good at social media, or I don't know if I should be doing it, or I don't think it's worth the time, or if you're on the fence at all, just know that it's normal, and we're going to get into that today. And hopefully you'll leave this conversation with a clear sense of next steps and how to move forward. Here are areas of focus. Consumer packaged goods brands struggle on social media. Why does that happen? That's the first thing we'll tackle. Second thing, why is that struggle totally normal? And then the third thing, what can you do about it? I like to try to keep things simple. So why do brands struggle on social? Why is that normal? And what can you do about it? Super, super simple. So I would like to start though by getting some comments in the chat. So I've sort of shown you what a chat function looks like. If I just kind of guessed that if you're kind of not that up to speed on social media in 2022, you might need a little indication of where the chat function is and how the chat function works on Zoom as well. So hopefully you've used Zoom before and you've used the chat function. If not, that's okay. But it's super easy. In the bottom of your screen, there's likely, or at the top of your screen, there's a little chat icon. If you click on that, you'll be able to type in a message, or for many of you, it might already be on the right-hand side of your screen. So I'd like you to chat with us, just send a note to the group here, sort of covering, what are you hoping to get out of this session today? I've put a presentation together and I can't change it now, but it's always nice to get a sense of what people are really looking for. So as I go through the presentation, I may speak on something a bit more in depth because someone in the chat mentioned that it was an area of focus for them. So if you could take a second and participate a little bit here and give me a sense of what you're hoping to get out of this session today. And we'll go to the chat here. I see Heidi and Dave from Picto. Hello, Heidi and Dave. I think I know that Heidi. Hi, Heidi. Morgan's here from Dartmouth, looking for fresh inspiration to be more engaged on my business's social media channels. Inspiration. Morgan, you are not alone. There's a lot of consumer packaged good brand owners who are searching for inspiration on social. Phil, you're hoping to gain more knowledge and dive deeper into consumer packaged goods. Okay, well, today's going to be a lot about social media, not necessarily about consumer packaged goods as an industry or as a field, but you're certainly in the right place if you're getting content and information from Perennia. And don't hesitate to follow me on Instagram at Brands by Tim. We talk about consumer packaged goods a lot as well, especially or on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's probably the best place to get information from me about consumer packaged goods. Any more? Let's get a couple more people to post. Come on, if you're on the fence. Matt, thank you, Matt. Having diversity on a fairly one-dimensional product. Oh, what a great thing to say. Yes. How do I keep talking about my product when it's one product and it's the same thing and it gets a little dry? We're going to talk about that. That's good. Thanks, Matt. All right. Well, as the other ones trickle in, if you've got some thoughts trickle in, I'll try to check back in the chat. We'll take it from there. Oh, there's one more here. Nadia from Henry's. I'm hoping to learn what type of time yields the best ROI. Yeah, you and everyone else wants to know that. What's the magic formula? How much time do I have to put in to get a good ROI? Okay, I'll try to touch on that too. Okay, great. Thanks, guys. Thanks for participating. I really love participation. It makes this a more interesting and more dynamic conversation. I much prefer a conversation than to just talk at people for an hour. But I think the chat function is going to be our only way to really do that. Normally there's emotions, like a reactions function, but I don't think it's an option here in the webinar. So you can ignore this fun little couple slides I put together. But if you do see this reaction option on your screen, well then, yeah, go ahead and use it. So if I say something that you like, thumbs up it, or if you love what I said, use the heart. If you think it deserves a standing ovation, then that's the big clap button like that. Anyway, and if you have a question, there should be a raise a hand function. And I'm happy to sort of, if your question is really pertinent to what I'm talking about, or if something I'm saying doesn't make sense because maybe you missed something or whatnot, and you need a little bit of clarity, try raising your hand, and I'll do my best to sort of capture when someone raised their hand, or maybe Emily, you could flag if someone's raised their hand, and then we can just quickly jump to that. All right, I want to start with a couple of, a handful of quick polls. So if you've never done polls on Zoom, it should just pop up, and it's very easy. You'll know how to do it. I'm not quite sure what the first poll is, so here's the first one. Here we go. How have you grown your business? So I have grown my business by, and then choose one. I'm just trying to get a sense of how has the group of us, how have we grown our business over the last few years? Are you focused on making the best product in your category? Have you worked at slowly forming relationships with with customers that love your product and turning them into ambassadors. Maybe you're really working hard on the wholesale side to get more location and expand your reach. Or maybe you work with someone like me to increase your awareness and your overall distribution. I guess we just wait until everyone answers. Here we go. Okay. Oh, pretty good distribution here. Making the best possible product in my category. Okay. Slowly forming relationships, working hard, wholesale, and investing heavily. Wait a second. Investing heavily in awareness is the lowest? Come on. I'm a marketer. It's the number one way. Before we go on to the next question, I just want to speak to this real quickly. So everyone that's listening, this is a webinar about social media and how you can perform better on social. I think that that's really important to consumer packaged good businesses, especially in Atlantic Canada. Actually, I know that it's really important. And the reason that I know that it's really important is I have seen plenty of evidence and have been told directly from very senior people within the grocery industry that the quality of your product, yes, it matters, but it's not going to run the day. It's not going to rule the day. So you can have the best product ever and it'll fail. And it happens all the time. I've seen it happen. It's happened to my clients before where they have the absolute best product in the market, but they fail. So it's not just about best products. So if you have been growing your business by focusing exclusively on making the best possible product, God love you, keep focusing on making great product, but understand that that won't be the key to long-term success. It takes more. There's more ingredients in that recipe. Okay, next question. How often do you use social media? Multiple times a day, once a day, few days a week. I do not use social media. I'm curious how many people say that. I'm an everyday guy, probably multiple times a day. I've taken Facebook and Instagram off my phone, so mostly just LinkedIn now, which has really decreased the amount of time I spend.
We have a question in the chat here, Neil. Did you want for personal use or business?
Yeah. Personal and business is fine. There really is no line when it comes to a small consumer packaged good company owner. Multiple times a day. Okay, that's what we like to see. Once a week. So the lowest is once a week. That's great. Looks like we've got some social media users multiple times a day for the majority of us. That is terrific. I don't know how it is affecting our productivity, but it is terrific to see just in terms of this concept and what we're talking about. Okay, last question. Should be one more. What describes you? You're excited to use social media more for your business. You're hesitant to use it. You're wishing you didn't have to, or what is social media? So you have to understand that as a marketer, I only feel comfortable if I have some sort of focus group or market research into my audience that I'm speaking with. So these questions are mandatory for me to feel comfortable in this little webinar today. The results are excited to use social media for my business. Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. Hesitant, a portion of us said hesitant. I totally understand that. Wishing I did not have to use social media. That's where I'm at, just so we're all clear. You can be proficient at social media and also not like it at all. And that's where I'm at. I actually don't like social media. I prefer not to touch it. But it's a necessary part of life. It's where an incredible amount of people are spending their time. So, okay, thanks for sharing your perspective. All right, let's get into it. Why consumer packaged good brands struggle on social media. So I picked 5 reasons. I probably could have picked 50, but these I think are the 5 main reasons why most consumer packaged good brands struggle on social media. So we'll jump right in. First one, they just don't understand it. Pretty simple, honestly. It's pretty simple. A lot of people don't understand how social media works. If you're on this Zoom call having a conversation about social media 101 in 2022, yeah, you likely don't have a good understanding of how social media works. And that's like totally fine. Knowing where your starting point is really helps, because it allows you to, pick the proper path towards where you want to go. And understanding that, yeah, maybe I just don't know a lot about social media and I don't understand it. That's a foundational reason why a lot of people don't have success on social, because they just don't understand the mediums. So the thing about social media is that it is super fast changing, right? Like it changes crazy quick, not only in its structure, so the way some of the apps work, or the way people tend to use those apps, but the actual content changes super quick. The trends on social media, what's interesting, what's funny, what's popular today may not be popular a week from now or a month from now. If we're talking about a social media network like TikTok, what's popular today, like this afternoon, might not be popular tonight. Certainly that's the case for Twitter. So it's super fast changing, and that makes it very hard for someone who doesn't pay a lot of attention to it and just sort of ducks their head in and says, oh, I need to do a Facebook post this morning. That can make it very challenging. There are also a lot of channels. Think how many social networks there are now. Facebook, Instagram are the obvious ones. But there's a lot more. Snapchat, TikTok. YouTube is a social network. Reddit's a social network. LinkedIn is a social network. What is it? What's Trump's Truth Network or whatever? He's got a social network. So they're ubiquitous. They're everywhere, and they're all a little bit different, and some of them are very different. So not only are there a lot of them, but there's a decent level of change from network to network. So there's a lot of complexity there. So again, difficult to be on top of that and understand it. This one's pretty foundational: two-way versus one-way communication. One-way communication is what companies and brands are like. They're used to that. We're used to seeing ads go out into the marketplace that tell you about a product and you should buy it, and then you might do that. But social media is two-way communication. The people can answer back, and they do. And that is a game changer. That totally changes the dynamic. And a lot of brands don't understand that. They think, I made this image, I put it on my Facebook, I'm done. The reality is you've just begun. You're not done at all. So the two-way communication is an important thing to consider. And then the last piece, this is something that a lot of people don't understand. They think that advertising has shrunk, advertising's gone away, and social media is now the focus. As a marketer who looks at it pretty objectively, advertising hasn't gone away. It's just changed. The place where they appear changed. Every single Facebook post, Instagram story, YouTube video that you might create and post, every single piece of content that your brand puts out into the market, that's an ad. Right? So when you post a picture of someone using your product at a hockey game or something like that, I don't know, that's an ad. Yeah, it's a Facebook post, but it actually is an ad. It generates it can generate thousands of impressions, and that's exactly what an advertisement does. And a lot of people don't understand that. So that's not understanding social media. They just don't understand is like the number one reason most brands fail. They just don't take enough time to learn and explore it. If you're just starting and you don't have any audience on your social channels and you don't have any experience, you should be spending 30 minutes a day reading. And there is no end in sight on the internet of things that you can read about social media. My advice to you is this. Always look at when the information was published. If it's more than 18 months old, ignore it. And if it's particularly important information, try to find a couple additional sources, because anybody can put anything on the internet, right? But a little bit of weeding through the muck, and you can get some really good insights on social media just by Googling. But it's a practice. It's something that you need to be spending time on a daily basis, or at the very least a weekly basis. And we'll talk a bit about resource investment later. So to me, this is the number one reason most brands fail on social. They just don't understand the platforms. So reason number two, they don't have a clear voice. So We asked the question earlier, how have you grown your company? Well, we grow the company by focusing on making the best product possible. And a lot of consumer packaged goods, especially smaller consumer packaged good brands, like, really believe that that's the path to success, is just make the best product. But that's not really true. So they don't spend time thinking about, okay, how would I communicate about this product? How would I storytell and explain people why I made this product and how it helps people and who it's helped before. They focus exclusively on making the product better and better and better. But the reality is that great products often fail. So having a clear voice, knowing what it is, why you made the product, that resonates heavily. So brands that lack clarity around their brand's greater purpose, they often fail. So you can make a really good widget, but if no one knows why you made the widget, then the likelihood of that widget succeeding in the marketplace is a lot less. People really care about why you're doing the things that you're doing. I'm sure many of you come from the farmers market space. One of the beauties of the farmers market is that the customers get to interact with you as the owner, or as someone who is very close to the owner. That's usually who's working at a farmer's market table. And so by default, they get that sort of that storytelling of who you are and why you do the things that you do. That's one of the reasons people love farmers markets. But as soon as you move beyond the farmers market environment, you lose that. You lose that storytelling piece. And so if it's just about the product being really good, it'll get lost on the shelf in a grocery store, even in a small market, it'll get lost. So having an understanding that a great product isn't enough, and that you need to be able to storytell and explain to the marketplace why you do what you do and why that matters, are super, super important. And this is a very common problem for small consumer packaged good brands. They don't have a clear voice. They don't know what their story is, and they don't know how to communicate that story. They're unclear what else to talk about. So if you make, a hand cream, well, you don't want to just sell your hand cream at all points on social media. You actually only want to be doing that maybe 15% of the time. So what do you do with the other 85% of the content that you're putting onto social media that shouldn't be sales focused? That, for a lot of people, is a giant stumbling block. They just see it as a barrier, and they say, okay, well, I don't know what to post, and so then they just don't. So that's a big challenge. And then when people do post things, they get crickets. Nothing comes back. So they spend 45 minutes getting a perfect picture and writing a little bit of copy to go with their Facebook post or their Instagram story or whatever it is that they're doing, and then they post it, and then nobody cares. There's nothing more frustrating than that. But that is often because you don't have a clear voice. It's not clear what it is you're trying to communicate to the market and why people should care. So that's number 2. You don't have a clear voice. Number 3, you ain't got no patience. You got to have patience in the social media game. Everyone says, oh, he's an overnight success. Well, everyone on this call who's an entrepreneur knows there are no overnight successes. We know that. But on social media, people see it like, oh, he went viral or she went viral. And it's like, oh, it's an overnight success. Yeah, not at all. You talk to anyone who's ever gone viral, there's usually months or years of not viral frustration that came before it. And then all of a sudden they figured it out and they started making content that people really engaged with and liked. It takes time. The reality is not enough folks see results fast, so they give up. That's a huge reason they fail on social media. Another reason, they fail to post consistently over a long period of time. I'm absolutely guilty of this. But as I said, I really don't even want to be on social media myself. I'm a consultant, so my need to be on social is very different than a consumer packaged good that's trying to sell to a lot of people. That's why LinkedIn makes a lot of sense for me. But for most brands, you want to be on multiple channels. You got to be there. You got to be there consistently. So maybe you're only going to post once a week. Okay, if you're going to post once a week, great. Do it every week. Do it the same day every week and roughly the same time every week. Consistency breeds interaction and trust. So you want to be consistent, and if you're not, you're going to see you'll see negative results. And a lot of people get a lot of brand owners, they really get hung up on what else they could have done with their time. So they say, well, I'm doing all this stuff on social, I'm spending the time, I'm reading the things, I'm learning, and it's not working. And I could have gotten these 18 other things done. You know, the opportunity cost of investing in one thing versus another. It's a huge reason that a lot of brand owners don't have patience, and they end up failing on social. Fourth reason, they're terrified to screw up. I don't know what I should post. I don't want anyone to freak out. What if I say the wrong thing? We all, especially now, we all see these examples. There's a whole crew of people out on the digital world that are just waiting for someone to screw up so that they can latch onto them and rip them apart. And that's the reality of the digital age. And I don't have any solution for that, but I know it's definitely a reason why a lot of consumer packaged good brands fail on social, because they don't feel confident to really say anything of substance or anything interesting. They end up being vanilla out of fear of offending or fear of stirring things up or putting a ripple in the water. So it makes for pretty boring social content if you're not trying to say anything of particular interest. It's really just a fear of cancel culture at the end of the day. There's another part of it too. There's an older crowd in the consumer packaged goods space. A lot of folks who have had a career, maybe they saved well and then retired early, and now they're doing a passion project, consumer packaged good product that they love. It's something they've always wanted to do, and now they're doing it. But when it comes to social media, they're scared to screw up because they think that they're too old or they're too out of touch. We see that all the time. And I got to tell you, some of the most interesting social media folks are older because they come to social media from a totally different perspective. They've seen a lot more life, and it's something to lean into, not be afraid of. And then the fifth reason, and this is where I fall, they honestly plain just don't like it. That's a major reason. Maybe there's some of you on this call who feel that way. You maybe you've been putting this off for a while. You just do not like social media, and that's fair. Maybe you're in a company and the leadership within the company doesn't like social media. They personally just think it's a waste of time. And so you can't get any traction around your senior leadership group because they don't believe in social media. That's always that happens as a problem. But it's just not how you want to use your time. That's where I fall. I just don't want to be spending my time there. Having difficulty relating to people that do love it. There's a group of people who see social media as actually like a societal problem. I can appreciate that. I don't agree, but I can appreciate it. And then there is a group that kind of resent having to do it. And so they do it, but they do it half-heartedly, and they actually end up just sort of self-sabotaging. So it's I've seen all of these things before. To me, these are the 5 biggest reasons why consumer packaged good brands don't have success on social media. There are other factors which we'll get into, largely resources. So I could say as a catch-all here, the complete lack of resources is a very quick way to fail on social media. It is resource heavy. You have to put time and energy into it. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So those are the top 5 reasons. So why is struggling on social media normal? Why is that not? Why should you not be surprised by it and just take a deep breath and say, okay, I'm in good company. Well, for one, too many hats. If you're anything like me as a business owner, just too many hats, way too many hats. This is just a quick brainstorm of what the average consumer packaged good business owner might do in any given day. And here you go: product development, market research, customer service, vendor relations, packaging design, human resources, sponsorship and activation, transportation and logistics, production and sales, accounting, merchandising, sourcing, social media, food safety, public relations, negotiations, etc. Social media is just one little bit of what you're actually doing. And it can be easy to not do it when you've got 1,000 other things to do. So wearing just absolutely too many hats is a super common reason why this happens. There's not enough resources. Products are often boring. So why do brands struggle on social media, and why is it normal? It's normal because a lot of products in our space are boring, right? Like it's difficult to make a hand cream interesting, or like a hand balm necessarily interesting. It's a hand balm. It's not a trip to Mexico and a beautiful beach and sea-doos and amazing food. Like that I can make interesting. How do I make my widget interesting? So this is a super common problem in the consumer packaged goods space. This is one of the reasons why it's normal for them to fail. So what does perform well on social media? Lifestyle imagery, beautiful people, sad but true, beautiful people, experiences and destinations, movement, video. Movement is huge on social. If you're not producing video content, you will be. It's just performed so much better. Rawness and authenticity are major on social. And then the cousin of authenticity is vulnerability. People love vulnerability and authenticity in the social space. And it's really hard for a brand to, like a consumer packaged good brand, to be vulnerable or to be, well, what is authentic? We make cheese. Like, what do I post about that's authentic? And it's not easy. And it's a very, very common reason why brands struggle. So without planning and investment, it's challenging to make the boring interesting. And that's just a reality. Consumer packaged good products, the majority of them are dry, and it takes creativity to make them interesting. And creativity takes time, it takes resources. So it's super normal not to have success because you don't have the capacity to make the boring interesting. That's just a reality. But if you believe, like I believe, that social media is a really important way to grow your business, you got to make the effort and make the resources available to make the boring interesting. Some consumer packaged good products are very interesting by default, and some of them are clients of ours, and we love that. But some of them aren't that interesting, and we got to make them interesting. So another reason is that social is crazy crowded. It's a very, very busy space. And this, I believe the crowd surfer here is Taylor Swift, I believe. By the way, all these images are brought to you by Google. I just Googled them and threw them in here. So thanks, Google. But, the social space is unbelievably crowded. And Taylor Swift here, this is the one consumer packaged good brand that people are pointing to as an example that everyone should do good on social media. And you all would have a couple of them in your mind. If you close your eyes and think, who do you see on your social media who's in our industry and is crushing it? A couple of names probably come to mind for you. But underneath that one or two really good examples are hundreds that are not doing well and are failing, basically. So it can be really deceiving. And it's a large part because the space is incredibly crowded. How crowded? Well, just one example. In a single day, over 1 billion stories will be posted to Facebook and Instagram. In a day. So your brand's going to stand out in this. In a day. Another statistic for you. Facebook alone will serve up roughly 2,500 pieces of content per user per day. It has the ability to do that. Your actual Facebook feed won't be 2,500 pieces of content because you could never get through that much. But there's enough content there that they're picking from specifically for you. I mean, there's millions of pieces of content, but based on your algorithm, there's about 2,500 that would apply to you. And then you only see a portion of those. It's an incredibly crowded space. It's hard to do well here. And because it's hard, it's totally normal to not do well. So I'm actually doing okay on time here, 10:36, or 2:36 your time. It's 10:36 here. What your consumer packaged good brand can do to up its game on social media. Here we go. Make it real and make it about you. So if you make a widget, then you have to understand that it's going to need to be about more than the widget. I said it earlier in this webinar, and I'll reiterate it now. The best products don't always win. Often they lose. It's not about having the best product. It helps, but there's as many of you would know, there's all kinds of reasons why things succeed or fail. And just being the best product isn't a magic fix to everything. You got to be you. I'll give you a reference. You can Google Simon Sinek, Start With Why. It's a YouTube clip that you can watch. It's not revolutionary, but Simon talks about the reality of how people's brains work, and that they're not so much interested in what you do as they're interested in why you do the things you do. And in order to understand your why, they have to get to know you. So as consumer packaged goods leaders, it's not enough to make a great product that maybe has some neat packaging. In the social space, you need to bring yourself into it. Or you need to engineer a way that you can bring people into your social content that tells a bigger story about why you get up in the morning and why you come to work and why you make the products that you make. This is a challenge for a lot of brand leaders. They don't want to make it personal. That they didn't get into this industry to be famous, to be on social media, to be a personality. But that sort of content is what really drives engagement on social media. So you have to strike a balance. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but you got to strike a balance. You have to bring yourself into it. So here's a picture of me goofing around, but that's the real me. You know, I'm obviously I got a bit more of a beard today, but that's me. I'm goofing around with a plant. I love gardening. I love plants. And this performed really well on social media because it resonated with people. It has nothing to do with marketing, but here it is. And that's the reality for your product. Some of the content that will perform the best for you on social media will be things that you never thought people would find interesting. So if you, I met the owner of Blue Harbor Cheese many years ago, and I can't remember her name. She was amazing. We were on a trade mission to Chicago, and she was telling me all about this procedure she does to make a particular cheese. And the way she was explaining it to me, it was so great. It was fascinating. And I wanted to be recording it because I knew that if I recorded what she was saying and the passion she had for it and the detail that she was describing it in, it would perform really, really well on social media for her. Often the things that you feel are not important are gonna actually be super important to your audience. So you got to make it real. You got to make it about you. That will dramatically improve your performance on social media. And if you don't want to do that, then you got to acknowledge that and find some new solutions. So we'll get into that here. I want to show a video though first. So this is an example of making it about people and not about product. So this is a video from several years ago about a small company in the town of Antigonish. This video is what was the starting point that launched their success, their international success. This is a video put together by CBC. It was posted on social media, and it began a wave that is still crashing to this day. But note, they don't talk a lot about the product.
Beyond belief. They're absolutely amazing. They're wonderful. You can tell they're a fine quality. I think they're going to be a huge hit.
likely familiar with the story of Peace by Chocolate. If not, it's in theaters now. You can go to any local Cineplex in Nova Scotia and watch a bit of their story. But the reason that is a movie now, and the reason they've had the success that they've had, is because of the personal side of their brand. The chocolate is chocolate. And I mean, I'll be the first to admit, in the first few years, it wasn't even that good. It was okay. It was a little bit different. And it was okay chocolate, but my goodness, this family and the story was so amazing that the brand grew and grew, because that's what people latched onto. And you may say, okay, well, we can't all be, thankfully, frankly, we can't all be, refugees and have this, compelling life story. And that's totally true. However, it's very common for people to underestimate the power of their own story. Who you are, why you're doing what you're doing, it has an audience. People do care about it, even though maybe you come from privilege, maybe you feel you don't have a compelling narrative. I bet you do. I bet the reason you've chosen this path will be interesting to people. I'm certain of it, actually. Again, this is an interesting example. Peace by Chocolate started very, very small, but the reason that they were able to expand and grow so quickly is because of the family story. It's not because of the chocolate. And Tarek will be the first to admit that. So we got one more example of Peace by Chocolate a little bit later here, but that's something to keep in mind. It's about you and it's about your story. It's not so much about the product. Oh, always does this. We'll go to the next one. Here we go. So, second big way to up your game when it comes to social media, you need to move from interested to committed. You need to move from interested to committed. If you're interested in something, you may pay attention to it. I'm interested in the Toronto Raptors, or I'm committed to the Toronto Raptors. Neil's committed to the Toronto Raptors. I love the Toronto Raptors. I'm not interested, I'm committed. I watch their games, I follow the scores, I know all the players. I could tell you lots about the Toronto Raptors. When you move from interested to committed about social media, you stop looking at it as something that you have to do, and you start looking at it as something that you're working to master. And a committed brain will have much greater success on social. If you're treating it like something that you have to do as opposed to something you get to do, you're going to be less successful. You got to move your brain from interested in social, like maybe I should do that, maybe I should spend time there, I think it could help us, I don't really know, to we are going to spend time there, it is going to help us, it will be a major portion of our business moving forward. I am committed to social media. If you want to up your game on social media, move from interested to committed. Huge mindset shift that will pay great dividends. Okay, so if you're committed, well, then what do you do? Well, commitment to action. You gotta put some skin in the game. So what does action look like? You need to allocate resources to social media. Many of you make products that you put in packages, right? So like a glass bottle or a plastic something, or a little baggie, or I don't think any of you make plastic bags or make bottles or make all kinds of elements that go into your end product. You buy them, you acquire them, you source them. Well, you're willing to put resources and dollars into these other parts of your consumer packaged good business. If you're not allocating resources to your social part of the business, you're going to have a lot less success than you otherwise would. You need to allocate resources. That's money, time, and relationships. Money, time, and relationships. Money to get some help if you need it, or money to create some content, which you definitely will need. Time, you need to put time in. Remember, patience, you got to have patience. So you got to be putting time in to learn, to try things, to measure how something went, and then try again. And then relationships, leveraging your network to grow on social media. So you all have your own networks, and there are people within your networks who have social followings. Having the guts to reach out to them and say, hey, could you post about this, or hey, or tag them in something. There are lots of ways to leverage your relationships to grow your social reach and your social presence, but you got to do it. You got to actually allocate the resources. So you got to allocate money, time, and relationships. That will help turn around your social media game. Another quick example from Peach by Chocolate. This is just in terms of allocating time and resources. This is something we did for them many years ago now. We introduced a Pride line of chocolate bars for them. They originally did this. I think we may have printed 300 wrappers, but they spent probably $3,500 with us developing this. Not this little ad, but the wrappers and the whole concept. And they knew they would never make enough money on the actual chocolate bars because they only did 300 wrappers. They knew they wouldn't make enough money to pay for the investment, but what they were investing in was telling their story and communicating to the world what their values were. And the result was this exploded. They ended up having to print thousands of wrappers, and they made a choice very early on though to donate all the proceeds to Phoenix House. So it's a quick example. It's a little loud. It's not too loud for you guys. So that's an example of a relatively inexpensive ad that got made from a concept that was totally on values for them. Again, this was a product. This is a whole concept that allowed them to tell people why they do what they do. The chocolate itself was kind of secondary. And this use of the different pride flags from the pride community, this was the first ever. Normally the bar in the middle, that pride flag, that's what we all know. But there's all these other flags for the other members of the pride community, and anyway, it went really well. This is a good example of taking risks. There we go. Okay, another thing, investing in positioning and messaging clarity. So how else can you improve your game on social media? You got to invest in positioning and messaging clarity. What am I saying and why? If you don't know that, if you don't know your why, if you don't know your broader purpose, you need to invest with someone like me to help you figure that out. Super, super, super duper important. It'll make every dollar you spend on social media afterwards much more valuable. If you don't, you're going to be wandering through the forest for a while. Craft a plan that reflects your honest capacity and interest. So understand how much time and resources and relationships you can actually put into this, and then craft a plan that reflects that and also reflects your degree of interest. So if you're super uninterested in social media, you may want to craft a plan that includes having someone do it for you. So just a quick suggestion, either Google a template or hire an expert. There's tons of great social media plan templates out there. You can Google them and find them very quickly. So you can do that or hire an expert, one or the other, but have a plan. If you do not plan, you will not be successful on social. And then this is the last slide. Prepare to learn, try, fail, learn, and then try some more. Failing is the first attempt in learning. I said earlier, you got to be prepared to learn, and sometimes you're going to fail. But the goal should be to fail small so you can learn big. So those are some tips on how to up your game in social. You really could do like a 3-day seminar on social, like from the very beginning of how it all works and what are all the channels and all that. Easily could fill 3 days to do a master class in this topic. So obviously couldn't do that in an hour. So I tried to triage this down for all of you to really get some meat and understand the social marketplace and what you're up against. I hope it was helpful. I appreciate you listening and being so kind to listen. And if you do want to chat, Emily said I should add this slide, so I added it. If you do want to chat, there's my phone number, there's my email address. Don't call me right now because there's no cell phone reception here, but you can email me or you can visit our website and schedule a quick connect on your own time. So I really appreciate everyone taking the time this morning, and I'm happy to answer any questions with the time we've got left.
Thanks so much, Neil. We do have 10 more minutes. So if you do have a question, please pop it in the Q&A or the chat, and we'll happily get to it. We have lots of time.
Okay. Come out of the screen share. Let's see. What is your favorite social media? Okay, let me go. Sorry, I'm just seeing someone say Lindell is the owner of Blue Harbor Cheese. Ah, Lindell. Okay. Yeah, sorry. What is your favorite social media channel for business and why? Well, okay, so that's a broad question. For business, if it's like a consulting, like in my world, B2B, LinkedIn is very difficult to beat. Twitter is also really good. I don't spend like almost any time on Twitter. I find it just toxic and I can't put my head there. But in terms of making connections and like just reaching out to someone and DMing someone, direct messaging someone, Twitter's really effective at that. I wanted to note this. What is the most popular activity on social media in Canada? The most popular thing people do on social media in Canada is direct message. It's not liking, sharing, tagging, none of that stuff. It's DMing. So really, I mean, Instagram, it depends on your business. If you're a business owner in your 30s, targeting millennials and Gen Z, your best business platform is Instagram. So it really does depend, but me personally, it's LinkedIn. How do you make your story a reoccurring post? How do you make your story a reoccurring post? Is this on Instagram, I guess, would be the question. You can't, is the short answer. Stories by nature are defined by time. So they only appear for so long and then they go away. But if we're talking about Instagram, there is the highlights feature, which if you go to an Instagram account, at the sort of above their grid, but below their little bio, there'll sometimes be these circles, and those are referred to as highlights. And so if there's something that you want people to know about on a regular basis, you don't want to have to keep posting it to your story every single day, well, you can put it as a highlight. So it's essentially, you can post it as a story, and then there's an option in the bottom right hand corner, I believe, although it does change, to save as a highlight, and then it will drop into one of the different highlights. This is something that's very easy to Google, and I would encourage you to just Google it and get the answer there. But if you're looking for a reoccurring story post, there is no functionality that lets you do it, but you could do a highlight, and that can be successful. The downside to a highlight, though, is that it's just sitting there. People aren't seeing it. A story on Instagram, for instance, that goes out into the world, and it can show up in all sorts of different places. And that's actually a really good way for people to discover your brand, is through stories. I would note using a hashtag, using a location tag are two really important elements in getting better reach for your stories. Example of the other 85% of content is 15% of selling, aside from get to know the person behind the biz. Right. So again, this is like a super, super big challenge, right? Like, well, what the heck do I post about today? I've already told them, my dog's name and everything I could think of. Right. That is what's really challenging about social media, because it's really demanding. It wants you to give it and give it and give it content. So a couple things. This is for Carling. This must be a company name, or maybe that is your name. Anyhow, a couple things. One, about 5% of the content that you post will actually be seen by your audience. And that's on a good day. So if you posted a get to know the owner, post it again. wait 3 or 4 or 5 weeks and post it again. I think we're all in Atlantic Canada here, or probably Nova Scotia. Ross Simmons from Foundation Inc. has talked for a couple of years now about distribution of content on social media. And he talks all the time about this, about taking content that you posted 6 weeks ago or a month ago or 6 years ago and posting it again. Or taking something that you posted last week and posting it in different ways. That is it's totally true, because most people aren't going to see it. So that it's the same content, but most people didn't see it. So if you take that, so for instance, if you do a post, let's say you do a Facebook post about your dog, like I said, and it's about my dog, Scotia, and she's really fun and loves blah, blah, blah. And we like to go on hikes, and maybe there's a picture over there. Well, you could then take that post, you could screen capture that post and post a photo of the post. And you think, well, that's a little weird. Yeah, it's a little bit weird, but now that I've mentioned it, you're going to start realizing that it's all over social media. People do it all the time, and it's a way to repurpose content. So that's one way to stretch topics out. Another suggestion I would say is set up some Google alerts. If you don't know what a Google alert is, Google it, but you can pick any topic. So let's say you're a company that makes raw dog food. Well, you can set up Google alerts for a lot of relevant keywords or subjects that will send an email directly to you anytime content gets published to the internet on that subject. So what you then get in your inbox is a steady stream of potential things that you could share and post and talk about on social media. So it just comes right to you. It's automated, and automation in social is a really, really wonderful thing. So I would encourage you to do that. Another suggestion would be to talk to your customers. Your customers will tell you things that they find interesting that are surprising to you. So if you listen to them, they'll tell you things that you could be, additional things you could be writing and talking about. And on the note of customers, anytime you get a review or someone tags you in a post, that sort of thing, that's great content for sharing. It's commonly referred to as social proof, and it's a really high credibility builder. So when someone says, "Oh my God, I absolutely loved Fresh Start's vegan cheese," Fresh Start is a client from PEI. "I absolutely love Fresh Start's vegan cheese. It's the best ever." Perfect. Screen capture. That's going to be a post 3 days from now. And so the content starts to develop that way. It isn't an easy thing, though. You know, that's one of the hardest things. Is what do I say with the rest of my time? I've only got 15% or 20% of the time where I can just make a direct pitch. So what do I say with the rest? The other thing I would say is invest in photography and invest in video. That's what some of the work that my company does, and we work with a variety of freelancers as well. And video and photos come in all price ranges. So you don't have to sell. You could just post a really cool photo of your product. The other thing you could do would be to send product to people and ask them to take pictures of it or ask them to post about it. That's depending on your product. Some things that doesn't make any sense, but for lots of products it does. So those are all different ways that you could sort of expand your content options. But having clarity around your own purpose and what your messaging and your positioning is really will help you start to see all kinds of opportunities. Okay, next one, Jenna.
2 more.
I know that name. 2 more, okay. Hey,
So that one's from Jenna. How many times was
did I miss another one?
said to post for a new brand account starting out?
That's a good question, Jenna. Full disclosure, my company is working with Jenna. She's a client, and she does have a new brand starting out. So she's getting a question in here, which is great. So how many times? Well, that's a good question. Everyone's favorite answer from a marketer, it depends. It really does depend, but when you're starting out, I would err on the side of volume. Get it out there. Get as many people seeing it as possible. Start to get a sense of what resonates with people and why. That I can't express that enough. Like, be prepared to fail. But remember that only a fraction of the world is actually seeing your content. So if it fails, who cares? Move on, learn from it, and move on. Once you're a big account and you're having all kinds of success, well, then worry about it then. Starting out, when you're small, try things, have fun with it. And Jenna, for you starting out, I would go with lots of volume. As long as you got the content to get behind it, I would go with some good volume, especially early on, to learn from the audience what resonates.
So there's one more here.
Sorry, Emily said there was one more.
Yep. So from Morgan, we have, what are your thoughts on using Facebook for Business as your website instead of something customer templated? We have the URL, but we haven't made that formal website leap yet.
Yes. Great question. Okay. So don't spend a ton of money building a website. Don't do that. It's not that you shouldn't invest in a website necessarily. I don't mean to say that, but websites have a time and place, right? A URL that goes to a Facebook page, it's not ideal because it can cause problems. There are reasons why you don't necessarily want to do that. But if you don't have a website and can't put a website together, it's totally fine to do that. The question you want to ask yourself is, what value am I creating for my customer by having a web experience for them? And the reason I say don't spend a fortune on a website, what I mean by that is don't spend like $15,000 to build a website. Spend a lot less than that, but commit to over time spending money to make it better. So it used to be, I've been making websites for 15 years. Like I made a lot of websites, and we used to approach websites like incredible amount of thought, research, writing, design, work. Okay, it's perfect. Turn it on. It's into the world now. That really, I mean, unless you got big budgets, is crazy, because who the heck knows what is going to resonate with someone, what matters, what they'll really like about your website, what they actually want to use it for versus what you think. And almost always what you think a customer is going to do with something isn't what they do with it. So don't spend a fortune on a website. Pick a platform that you feel comfortable with. We do a lot of our client websites in Squarespace. Very easy to use. That's why we use it, because we hand those websites over to the client. So we build them in Squarespace so that they can then inherit those websites and still manage them themselves. So pick a platform that you're comfortable with, Squarespace, Wix, WordPress, whatever, and get it up there. But then look at your data, look how people actually use it, and then change the website to reflect what it is you want them to do and what it is they're trying to do with the site already. So that's been a big change, I'd say, in the last 3.5 years. It's like, let's not seek perfection on launch. Let's seek, minimum viable product on launch, and watch and pay attention and then tweak as we go. It's a much better use of your resources. But in terms of your question, should you make a website instead of just having your Facebook page? Like I said, is there something about this website that's going to bring more value to your customer that they can't get already from your Facebook page? If that's the case, then yeah, you should do it. But if not, if it's just another place to put your hours and your address and a description of your product, an Instagram highlight works really great for product descriptions. So, and it's free.
Good answer. We're just
Any more questions?
No, it looks like we're good. I think that was a big resonating message there that's really good, is listen to your customers. I liked that came up.
Oh yeah.
I think product side is huge growth for being able to listen to your customers and what they like about it.
Yeah, I should know. I mean, I can't do every time I do a session like this or anything, I always end up talking about Ross Simmons from Foundation. Find him on LinkedIn and follow him. Or he's on other channels too, but follow him. He gets great content for business minds around marketing. And then the other one will be, phone ringing here. It's not my phone. I don't know. The other one will be Caitlin Burgoyne, who is fantastic. She has the best newsletter going for marketers. Her company's called Customer Camp, and she focuses exclusively on customers and understanding customers. Her slogan is, whoever gets closest to the customer wins. And she's 1,000% right. So when I speak about that and say, listen to your customer, I'm channeling Caitlin Burgoyne, and she's a rock star. So those are the two I would suggest go follow. Don't follow me on social. I'm really not that worth following. I'm not a big fan of it, but Caitlin and Ross are awesome.
Awesome. Thanks so much. We'll let everybody get back to their day, but I just want to thank you, Neil, for presenting today. And if you want to get in contact with him and miss that, it's This Is Marketing in Dartmouth, for looking up on Google. Other than that, we'll let you go for your day. And thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for putting this together, Emily.
No problem.